It's Alex,
Aye.
Marty,
Aye.
John.
Got it.
John?
Aye. Aye.
Don't shut your microphone off anymore. Dorian, aye. Okay, so those are approved unanimously. Okay, moving on to master plan committee update. We don't have Tom, but Sarah, can you fill us in on the master plan?
Yeah, sure. Master plan is still working to finalize some just kind of finishing touches on the revisions of the chapters. There hasn't been any real significant change to the housing chapter. I know that Tom and I are going back through it to maybe eliminate a little bit of redundancy from the HPP and maybe add a few more kind of details that are more broader in scope. But other than that, it's pretty much the same.
Okay. All right, thank you. So we'll be getting something before it's finalized from you guys, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Maybe the February 1st meeting?
Likely, yes. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. If it's possible to send that out to everyone prior to the meeting, Sarah,
Sure.
if you could do that,
Yeah.
that would be great. That way everybody has time to look at it.
Absolutely.
Okay, subcommittee, we don't have Tom. I'm gonna hold off on that. Maybe he will jump in a little bit. Affordable Housing Trust 5-year plan. Sarah, do we have any new information on that at
Sure.
all?
Yeah, so Emma is working on, we did have some really great stakeholder discussions with some developers from around town and also some stakeholders, board and committee members and folks who work directly with affordable housing recipients. And we got a lot of really good information from that. So Emma has been working on creating those scenario-based kind of plan, the scenarios that will eventually be chosen to go into the plan. So she's working on those. And then she also helped to create the draft warrant article. So that got sent out to everybody. And I hope you all have had a chance to review it. It's pretty short. So we're taking, a two-pronged approach, hoping to have our standalone warrant article be heard and approved to release those funds that were already allocated and approved at town meeting into the Affordable Housing Trust. And then hopefully to get the standard CPC language kind of augmented so that moving forward this year and then in the years to come, that funding, that 10% funding is automatically turned over into the Affordable Housing Trust, where it can be used more nimbly than being held onto at the CPC level, which is what we've talked about a lot with this board. So I'd like any feedback that folks have on that warrant article language, because I think the next step, and I'd like to get Marty's take on this, is going to be going to the Board of Selectmen just to make sure that they're aware that this is, what we're looking to do, and hopefully to get their support on this article.
Hey, Sarah, I'll just weigh in very quickly.
Great, thank you.
From a CPC perspective, there
Sure.
has not been a meeting
Okay.
since I got appointed, so
Sure.
I haven't had a chance to bring it up with the CPC to sort of take their temperature on their views on it. The selectmen, we haven't discussed it. We've just discussed the warrant articles in very general terms, but obviously we do and will review each one and take a position on them. So I don't know if one or more of you want to. I can touch base with Lisa or Mark. They're the ones who are setting the agenda these days. Do you want us to just look at the language? Does somebody want to come and talk about I can talk about the rationale for it, but maybe not as historically accurate as some of you other folks may. So we don't have to decide now, but think about that. But we do and will look at the language. We haven't talked about it at all yet.
Okay. Yeah, I think, I'd be happy to attend to give some additional, context. And it looks like Dorian would be happy to come too. Marty, do you know if that's your next meeting or?
Oh, we can do it whenever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we don't know the exact date of town meeting yet. We do know that it's not going to be in March.
Okay.
So there's a little bit, there's not the urgency that there might otherwise have been for,
Okay.
but it's not going to be, we're meeting tonight. It's obviously not on tonight's agenda.
Right.
But I can't imagine that we couldn't put it on one of the February agendas. So if you all tell me the date you'd like, I can just let Mark and Lisa know. And I can't imagine, our agendas are very budget driven right now, but warrant articles as well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
So we may want to do either, obviously we won't make it for the February 1st. That's probably too short a notice. So we should probably we could go to
Actually, it's the 15th.
Yeah, we could do the.
I think it's the 15th. I'm
Okay.
trying to remember. We moved some stuff around because of school vacation, but I think school vacation is the week after. But maybe
Yes.
I'm wrong about that.
It
Okay.
is the week after.
It's the week of the 22nd. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So it's the 1st and the 15th in February, and then the same dates in March.
Okay.
The 15th is a tough one for me because we're supposed to have a new little granddaughter coming on the 14th.
Oh,
I'm not
Oh,
sure
cool.
if she'll show up on the 14th or the 15th, but we're kind of on a holding pattern for that week. So I would like to
Well,
attend this meeting though. I think that it's advantageous for Shopc to have some people there to ask questions of. So we'll figure that out. So why
Yeah,
don't
no,
we,
I agree.
yeah, while we're in that mode, why don't we just jump right to the warrant article? You guys have a draft warrant article in front of you. I'm assuming you have it there. Did everybody take a look at that with the verbiage read and how it read? And does anybody have any comments or things they want to add? I know I have one thing I want to add in there, but does anybody else have anything?
I don't. Has Jay Tallerman, the town council, has he been asked to take a look at it yet?
Not yet.
Okay. Assuming we finalize language, then we'll send it to Jay. Is that the idea?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm fine with it.
John?
I think it's a little minimal. I think it doesn't say that we're trying to do this every year. It sounds like it's just this year. We are planning on doing this every year, that the funds will automatically transfer, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And so I think
It's a little
I'm just
vague.
going to share it if everybody doesn't mind. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I hear what you're saying, John. So this draft warrant article, the first one would be the release of
That
the
one's great.
funds. Yeah, and then the second one is about moving it over ongoing. So I guess I can add to that summary, because again, this wouldn't, in terms of the annual allocation, right? That would be language to augment the current CPC blurb, right? So like their current blurb is, I'm paraphrasing, but we're allocating this 10% to affordable housing, but we're gonna hold on to it, and what we wanted to say moving forward is we're allocating this 10% to affordable housing and it's going over into the affordable housing trust immediately. So I guess that would be, this would be the second section would be what would change to add that clarity. So
Well, if it's already in there, I guess it's more clear. I'm just pretty stupid.
No, it's if you being so close to it, if there was any confusion, then that probably means that someone who is not as familiar with the process may be confused. So
I am a great litmus test to see if somebody can understand it, because you have to treat me like a kindergartner, and I get it.
I think you have to add, this will take place on an annual basis. The money will be transferred on an annual basis to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund once approved by town meeting. I think
Okay.
you have to be very
spell it out.
specific.
I agree.
I think you have to be very specific with CPC. You have to. It has to be transferred every year. They can't sit there and hold it like they've held this other money since 2009. I mean, it's just sitting there. So, and we have an Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
I'm just happy to see that we've got something to go on the warrant, even as written, is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's nice to be able to have the funds available.
Okay, and that, in the first part of that article too.
Sure.
If the town will vote to transfer $196,277, I
Mhm.
think it's, and 32 cents. But I'd like to add in there, and all accumulated interest. And I'm not sure of the legalese, if it's here to in or there to for, or whatever that is, but I think that has to be added by legal counsel, so.
Okay.
And that's gonna be a lot of money. At this point, with that kind of money sitting there. But I think we need to add, get the interest as well. Morning,
Okay.
Jesse.
Hey, good morning, guys. Sorry I was late. Just had a work
Worry.
call that started at 7, just wrapped up.
No worries.
What did I
at all.
miss?
We're talking about the warrant articles right now, so you'll see it on the screen. There's the warrant article to transfer the monies that were approved for 3 years that the CPC is still sitting on. And that total was 196,277.32. And then there's the second draft warrant article underneath that we want the money transferred on an annual basis. That's approved at town meeting and not have CPC sitting on that money. It should be, we have a housing trust fund. The money should be going there.
Yes.
Every other town transfers it immediately except for us.
Yes.
So.
And we
need to-
started 2 other subcommittees, and your chair and secretary on those. Should have been here on time.
Okay, does anybody else have anything to add? Or question or delete? Any other discussion on these two? No? Okay.
No? Okay. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing then. Alrighty, so I guess Dorian and I will work together to get these over to town council then for review, and we will try to get on an upcoming Board of Selectmen meeting to discuss.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, next. So we have legal opinion on the agenda. That's really more of like a placeholder if we got any more information from legal counsel on our warrant articles, which we haven't. We just put that in as a placeholder. So there's really nothing to discuss there unless somebody has some questions that we'd like to get off to Attorney Tallerman. Does anybody have anything on that? Okay. All right. MBTA community requirements. Sarah, you've been dealing with.
So,
I'm gonna let
yes.
you handle this.
So we got some interesting information that was kind of disseminated out via Chris Clutchman, who is I don't exactly know what her title is over at DHCD, but she's definitely heading up the MBTA communities requirement distribution and information. So the news is interesting. At this point, Southborough is going to be potentially mandated to create 750 units under this particular initiative, with a 50-acre area. And so I'm not really sure how that's going to all shake out, because I don't think that is something that the town has the capacity for. I think that there are many smaller communities that are going to be up against these requirements where they're just not going to have the level of capacity. So, I think that town council, has stated that he thinks that a lot of communities are going to be pushing back at this point. But to answer our question of what's a district of reasonable size, MBTA communities has come back and said 50 acres. So 50 acres at 15 units per acre is how they got that $750. So, excuse me, 750 units. So, I'm just going to kind of put that out to the group at this point. I mean, I'm not really sure.
Sarah, can I add something quickly?
Yeah.
What you were saying is, I don't know if you attended the workshop.
I did.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I think one of the things, if I'm not mistaken, they said that you're not required to have 750 units built. You have to make it the ability to have somebody do that. So the town has to provide, in essence, a 50-acre zoning district that would allow for that kind of density build out. It doesn't mean you have to build it. You just have to make it available as a district so that someone could propose that. And then also there was that interim, I forget when it's due, but there's like a one-page form, I think, that towns are supposed to submit with their intent as an interim compliance in order to be compliant. Because at first they said everyone could be compliant automatically because they're not defined yet. And then they said, well, we have this one-page document that they sent a link to that has to be filled out and submitted. Did you see that? Did you see that part?
The one pager, I didn't receive it yet, no.
No, I mean, they showed a link to it in that workshop, just so you know.
Yeah.
Just so you're aware of that. So that's something we can talk about and research a little more. So you know, we can have that information for you for the next meeting. And then the last thing is, when you see the admin person, that's Colleen Stansfield, the new business admin and planning. She's just watching so that she can stay up to speed on what's going on to help you, Sarah. All right.
Thanks.
So, all right.
Ready.
I just wanted to let you know that.
Okay, thanks, Karina. Okay, John, a question?
Alex has his hand up before me, so.
Oh, Alex, sorry.
I'll be, yeah, I think it's safe to assume they're not going to require they all be McMansions. But I think the question I have is there an obvious affordable component to this? In other words, if you have to have that many within proximity of public transportation, have they discussed making them at least affordable? You know, what's the affordable component?
I don't know, but I'll tell you what, our MBTA area, there's no way we're going to get 50 acres within a half a mile of that. We're already developed. So, I mean, I think that it's
That's
an
the bigger
outrageous
question.
request.
That's the bigger
Yeah, it's
question.
outrageous for smaller towns. They're making rulings based on larger cities, for cities like Boston or, you know, larger places that they can do that.
Go try to come up
town
with
is
50
too
acres
small
in
for that.
Boston.
You can't tell people they have to sell their property because they're next to the MBTA and we're going to plow down all the houses for 50 acres and we're going to build all these units. Like, I mean, it's kind of crazy. So this is just not going to happen. We don't have the capability of giving up 50 acres. We don't have 50 acres. We're, you know, unless we're getting rid of St. Mark's or Fay School or something, we can't get rid of, we don't have 50 acres to do that with. So
That was my question. So does it have to be, so Karina had said that it's to make a zoning area that will allow for that. Does it have to
Yes.
be available to do that? Does it have to,
Yes.
because I, from what I understand, we also lose MassWorks grants money if we're not compliant with this. So
Yes.
that's a lot of infrastructure work, like on Route 9 and big things that we need in this town that we could potentially lose by being not compliant. So if we have to set up this district, I know it has to be set within a half mile of the MBTA station. Now, if we made new bus stations somewhere in a place that could be developed over by, like, just for instance, like if we made a bus stop over at Crystal Pond, would that be sufficient to be considered part of the MBTA if we made a pickup there? Because then we actually have space that we could do it. Not that it's for sale, because I don't know what Dell's doing with that. But that would give us the space and potential. But that hurts us two ways, because that's our biggest industrial commercial piece of land in town that we want to try to offset, you know, residential taxes with commercial taxes. We obviously don't want to put houses in there. If unfortunately, I'm wearing two hats here, my Shopc hat and my EDC hat. So that's a double-edged sword if we move it over there, but at least that way we'd have space if we needed to. Because
John,
I don't
let
want
me just interject. I believe that workshop has a video that they follow up with. So maybe Sarah can forward that to everybody, the link, so that you can watch that workshop. It's very interesting. They actually, and again, if I'm not mistaken, because I watched it, you know, kind of on the side, they rank the town's requirement based on the type of access you have to public transportation. So I think, Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, there were like 4 levels. You have
Yes.
a commuter station, if you have in your town, if you have bus stops, so there were like 4 different rankings. So, and depending on what you had is what put you in that criteria of what you need to create as a district in order to have the ability to do that. So I don't know if you can just add a bus stop and then say, you know, now we're this kind of an MBTA community. So it's very important to look at those stuff. So forgive me, it's been so busy. I haven't had a chance to delve into this, but maybe that if you all watched that workshop, it was very informative and it
Thank
wasn't
you.
that long.
Because I agree with Dorian, we have no space within a half mile of the MBTA station to do anything. I mean, there's some, but it's swampland or wetlands or, you know, I know there was just 10 acres that just went for sale behind on Parkerville. I don't know what's being done back there or anything. And I know that the CAS building is under agreement now. So I don't know what's going on behind that, because I know there's like 9 acres back there. Maybe that could be housing. And would we be able to get, if they do put housing back there in either one of those spaces, can we get that to count towards our census if that's part of the district?
And realize that this is still not set in stone yet. This is still a moving, like Sarah said, this is like a evolving topic because there's a lot of.
But what my
pushback.
question is, could it be count towards the census, even though nothing's set in stone yet? If we're going in now, can we somehow put it in the verbiage that, hey, look, we're doing this now, even though it's really just
That's
lucky?
the question. How lenient and where are they going to take this?
So the
We
way,
couldn't even use South Union School because it was 0.6 of a mile from the MBTA. So, I mean, they said no to that. They said it's too far. It's not within a half a mile. Everything around the MBTA for us is developed or wetlands or a train track, or, I mean, there's nothing in that area. So they need to take a closer look at the communities that are the MBTA and stop making these main huge ideas of what they would like to see. We can't do the same thing as a city. We are not a city. We are a very small, very land tied up community. We don't have a lot of free land. We don't have it. And we've got 2 private schools that are taking up a huge amount of space. And we've got Route 9. We don't have the capability of doing this type of a buildup. We don't have the infrastructure. The schools can't handle that type of an influx of kids if they're starting to come in. We don't have the police and the fire. I mean, this community can't afford that. We don't have the financial ability to do this. So it's outrageous that they're making this type of criteria for smaller communities that we can't do it. It's just physically impossible. So they have to take another look at what they're demanding of us, and because we can't do this. This is impossible. So I'm just have us plug along and do the best we can.
We
Can I
struggle to
interject?
get 18 units a year. Can you imagine trying to get 450?
I
to
think
me,
Colleen has something to add.
I'm sorry. So the way that I understood it, there wasn't a heck of a lot of new information at that seminar. It was just kind of the same old, this is what we're thinking. It's not set in stone. And the way I understood it is you very much like the planned production plan, you have to have it in order to get the grants. It doesn't mean you have to build them. You have to have a plan, very much like the production plan. Other than that, I've talked to a few other people that are, in the planning community, and everybody was a little let down by that seminar because it really didn't add any new information. So this is, like Sarah's been saying, this is a process in the works, and we just sort of have to figure out how to make it work. The biggest thing is the multifamily and the mixed use. So that's what they're really pushing. They want everybody to have, every community that touches an MBTA community to have some sort of a planned multifamily facet that they're working towards. I know that
Right,
doesn't help a
well,
lot,
But it
but
has to be within a half a mile of the MBTA station, which is the real killer, especially for us, because that station was put in after all of those homes and those developments, that residential area is already been developed. The churches, I mean,
so tell me this, what, the MBTA station, is that in Southborough? I'm unfamiliar.
Yes.
yes.
Oh, it actually is,
And
okay.
it's right
Yeah.
next to the Hopkinton State Forest. I mean, you're looking at 50 acres in that area. It's physically impossible. We can't do that. We just can't. And
It's right
They
on
and
the
they
border.
want
of
a half
Hopkins.
a mile from the MBTA. It has to be a half a mile. We have the South Union School. We have 4.23 acres, whatever there that we were looking at, that we wanted to try to develop and put in housing. But it's 0.6 miles from the MBTA station. They're like, no, it's not within 0.5. It's like, okay, guys, you're just not working with anyone. So.
Right.
Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, but during the workshop, they indicated that 0.5 miles from the rail station, at least half of the area had to be in that. I don't think the
Yes.
whole area had to be, just half of that 50 acres had to be.
Yes.
within
So
half a mile.
yes, so because the area is now dictated as being quite large, I think that there may be potentially more flexibility, given those parameters that they're laying out now, in terms of half of it being, within that radius, because obviously it couldn't all be within that radius and cover 50 acres. So I think that we could now make a case for the South Union School, school building to be part of that area that we designate. I think there's still just more questions than answers in regards to this process. But I do agree with Karina, John, that if we created a new bus station, it wouldn't negate the fact that we still have that commuter rail station. And that's what they're going to focus on in terms of the proximity.
So I have a question. Could we make a district? Hang on, John, sorry. I have a thought and I'm old. I'll forget it. Could we make a district, that whole area, half a mile around that MBTA? Could we actually make that a district, however big that is? What is going to be the impact if we change that and make that district? What is the financial impact to the value of the homes in that area? Does that impact them? Because if that impacts those homeowners, we can't do that either.
Well, also
Yeah,
what happens if it gets voted down at town meeting? Say you propose this MBTA community, it still has to go to town meeting, correct?
Right, Karina, but if we make that entire area within a half a mile around the MBTA, around the train station down Southville Road there, Corderville Road, that whole area, including, it wouldn't even include the South Union School because it's outside of the 0.5. If we made that a district, that whole area, half a mile, as big as we could get it, try to get the 50 acres, does that have a financial impact on the homeowner's property values?
Yeah, I can't answer that. I don't know. It all depends on what's there and do you really need a half a mile? And is this train station big enough that if you do a half, I don't know, because you have to remember, it's still, they want 50 acre designation. How
Well,
much?
I don't know how much land would be half a
Yeah.
mile from there surrounding that area. We'd have to take a look at that area, but if that has a financial impact and lowers the value of those homes there and that property there, we can't do that either. They're existing. It's already there. We'll all get sued. The town will get sued for doing that. So, I mean, we can't do that either. So, I mean, I just think whoever put this together wasn't really thinking. They just wanted this idea and they just didn't really think it through for small communities. I'm not trying to be mean. It's just, it's physically impossible for us. I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
I think that if that went through, I don't think it would affect it, the property values negatively. I think it would actually be positive. There's been some things to show that if it goes mixed use strength. I just want to, I'm sorry, I forgot your name and it's not just coming up as admin. I apologize.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Colleen.
Colleen, I apologize. I'm old and stupid. I just wanted to give you a quick synopsis of the landscape over at the train station. So to the south of the train station, is either a pond or Hopkinton. Okay. To the east and west is wetlands. Also in the east and west of the train station is also a train track that 30 feet from the center is an easement to CSX or whatever the railroad is. So our half mile is probably, it's actually only a quarter mile. We only have one side of the circumference, and it's barely, even that is encumbered with things. I think it's physically impossible for us to do anything that even remotely could work over there. If anybody wants to correct me if I'm wrong, just with the lay of the land over there, but I don't think there's anything that can be done, because we have a train track that runs east to west. South is state forest, as Dorian said, as well as it's not our state forest, it's Hopkinton, so we can't create a district in Hopkinton. And the other side is undeveloped wetlands and
No,
such, and I believe
agree
some
with you.
conservation land.
Like I said, they didn't think this through, and they didn't look at all the communities that this is being impacted by. So
I agree, John. And so since we're at that border there, right, my assumption would be that the 50 acres would have to push outward, right, from the train station into Southborough. So obviously, if you did a circumference from the train station, you'd be into another community, which won't work. So if that's like your back border, then it's just going to push that much further out into Southborough. And, I don't know exactly what that area would look like in terms of,
I guess
50
my
acres.
question is, would they give us an exemption and let us go further out, which would allow the South Union to be part, what I mean? Since we're so limited
Well,
around it, would
I
they
think
give us an exemption to go out further? Like, let's say all the way, I don't know how far Route 9 is. Is it by the way the crow flies for the half mile? Is it by the
So
roadway?
it's funny
Crow
because that's
flies.
another answer. I think it is from how the crow flies, but I've asked that question directly and have not gotten a straight answer.
And I think that's your biggest problem here is it's not a finished deal. And honestly, if you think about the communities in the city, they can't do it either. They're built up around their train stations. They have a lot of stuff going on. They don't have any open space. So I think there's a lot of leeway in this. I think it's more, at least at this point, to come up with a plan. And then they're going to go from there. That's the way I heard it. I don't think anything is carved in stone. This is just
But it would be nice to
an
come up with a
initiative to
plan
get
that
to.
works.
Right. Well, that's
I mean-
where we come in.
That's
would be
the
nice if
challenge
we-
though, right? Is if we don't, I think to your point, John, if we don't know the parameters, if they don't know the parameters, we can develop a plan that we think works, right? And then if we bring it to the state and the state says, no, that doesn't meet our parameters, and we've wasted time. I'm sorry, John, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you didn't at all. That was great. Because it would, like Mimi said in one of the meetings, zone for what you want. I think if we could somehow get this area to stretch out towards Route 9 would be the easiest place to do, not the easiest place because we've got hindrances of water and sewage and stuff there. But I think it would be great if we could somehow we have the space to do anything out there, and we could get the density, and I don't think it would get bought by the town. And maybe we could do that. So it'd be so much easier if we could just get some type of an exception or variance to this, that we just get a little extra space so we could push out to Route 9. Even Route 9, like from that station now, the Andrea restaurant's been sold. The building next to it's been sold. The Cas building is now in the works. So we're even running out of space along Route 9 that we could do it. So we're really going to have to think out of the box to get this plan.
I'm not really sure of the geometry, John, but again, I think that during the workshop, they said that only half of the 50 acres needs to be within the half a mile. I could have picked that up wrong. Sarah, didn't you hear something similar? That half of the 50 acres needed to be within a half a mile.
Yes,
So John's
yes.
idea, pushing, you have a frontage on the train station and then you push the rest of the district towards Route 9. I don't know the geography of how far that away that is, Route 9 is from the train station. So
Well-
maybe that would work.
Yeah, I mean, I
and
think.
South Union would have worked. If we added South Union to it, it would work. And they're saying
So
no.
I
So
think the
that
good
doesn't make
news is
sense.
that South Union will work now, because if you go from the train station out 50, acres, then you're definitely going to hit the South Union School, which is great, especially because, again, given the fact that the train station is right on the Southborough line, it would have to go further into Southborough versus make, any kind of actual circumference like around the train station, because then we wouldn't be able to, be in our own community, so to speak. So.
Sarah, and maybe that form, I think it's due May 22nd, if you want to have interim compliance of some sort. I think maybe that form is on the website and they talk about it more, wherever that form is. I think it was MassDOT, and for everybody's sake, I think it was
there's a link in the email that I sent out to everyone, which will bring you to the website for MBTA communities. It's a live link. I just clicked on it.
And the
this
form
morning,
is there
so
too. Just so you
that'll
know.
have all the information that you need.
Okay. Excellent. All right, I'm going to be quiet again.
No, you're good. Thanks for all your help.
You don't have to be quiet, Karina. Okay, we're gonna have to work through this somehow. Question. In creating a district, and Jesse, maybe you can answer this, what are the steps that we need to take to try to create that district?
Well, we would first work with the selectmen, I believe, to formulate the warrant article. And then we would hold a series of public hearings to discuss it. Eventually, we would have that warrant article, if it passed through that process of the public hearings at the planning board, we would then have the warrant article presented to advisory and any other relevant town boards and committees, and then eventually have it in a town warrant and voted on town meeting floor. We've done this. The ones that I've been directly involved in were the first one was a solar overlay district. So for commercial solar arrays, those can only occur in certain areas of the town. And this is land-based, not rooftop residential stuff. I'm talking, large ground-rooted solar arrays that we have, fairly restrictive zoning for that allowance. And that went through this process of development of the warrant article, starting in the planning department, public hearings, that whole thing, and eventually passed at town meeting. The same thing with the restrictions on adult use cannabis. That is also essentially banned in the town through the same process. So we can do that. And Marty, if Marty was still on the call, would be the first one to tell you what a process it was to get the downtown district done, which went through the same kind of thing. So
that was easy.
Okay, John. John joined EDC the day before the vote at town meeting. That's why it's easy for him. I'm kidding.
Wow, you're going to give him a stroke, Dorian.
That's right.
Don't do that.
Hey, if working on that downtown district thing didn't give him a stroke, I'm not going to give him a stroke. So John, I'm gonna get you to be in charge of this for Shopc.
It's probably a good thing he's muted.
I know. Okay, so Sarah,
Yes.
are we going to be getting any more updates on this MBTA stuff? And I'm calling it stuff because there's so much involved in it. I mean, are we going to be getting any more webinars or seminars or conferences or anything or any new information coming down the pike in the next few months?
I hope so. You know, again, it's all dictated by DHCD. You know, as you'll recall, they did create this legislation a year ago. And that was when their initial guidance was issued. Then it was pretty much radio silent between then and now. So this is their second kind of large release on this topic. So I do not anticipate it being a swift moving process. But, you know, I'll definitely keep my eyes and ears open for any additional information that might be released.
Would it be to our advantage, hang on, John, to bring in the person who is making decisions on this to talk to us? So
I can reach out
understand where
to
we're coming
her.
from?
You know, I can reach out to her or someone on her staff. The initial feedback that I had received, you know, again, this past year was basically, you know, look at the website, rewatch the webinars, you know, there isn't any new information. The state is very tight-lipped about giving answers to individual communities, you know, so on a case-by-case basis, they are not typically answering questions, but I mean, I'm happy to reach out.
I don't think they have any answers yet. I think that's
Well,
why they're
that's the
being
thing,
lazy.
right? So, and so I think that because they don't have any answers, they are not willing to set precedent by answering individual questions.
Okay.
I have a stupid quick question. Whose purview is this to come up with this plan? Is this a Shopc thing? Is this a planning thing that we just look at? I know Shopc's indirectly, you know, part of planning. So I didn't know if this is something we look at after planning goes through it. Is this something we bring to planning and then hopefully they do? Or do we work collaboratively with planning on this? Who has to do?
I think we have to go to the selectmen first and get it approved by the selectmen because we're appointed via the selectmen.
But what I'm saying is who's coming up with who writes the plan? Is
Well,
that is that Shopc? Is that
Nothing.
planning?
My experience with this, John, has been that it starts at the selectmen and then they sort of enlist the planning department and the planning board to do it, so to speak, vis-a-vis review. You know, with this downtown district thing, we did a very, very detailed scrutiny and review of the language of the
I'm aware,
bylaw.
but EDC came up with 9 versions prior for you to review. So is Shopc going to come up with all these versions for the planning review, or is planning going to be right in the get-go with it saying, hey, this is what we think, how it needs to be done? Because what I learned in that downtown district bylaw is I know nothing about zoning and planning. And even with what I've learned, I still know nothing. So
It would have to go through the selectmen for sure.
And then the selectmen would say to the planning and Shopc, hopefully, you know, work together, because, you know, the knowledge that you guys have, it would be great to go right from the start. Hey, this is what we need to do, how we need to do it. I think it would be a lot easier that way.
Sarah, can we get an aerial map of that entire area?
Sure.
Does the town have an aerial map of that entire area?
Well, the town's GIS is actually works really well, you know, so you can take a look at that in terms of the spatial understanding. But I could go on to the GIS and kind of just take a picture and send it out like a screenshot.
Yeah, would you mind sending that out to the group?
Sure.
So we all can kind of see the actual area that we're talking about? Just so everyone has a visual of it. I personally would like to have a visual of it.
Yeah. Oh my God, my dogs are
Okay,
chasing each other around.
So
Mine too.
does anybody have anything else to add to the discussion on the MBTA community?
Well, I had a question. Is there anything at the state level that differentiates between municipalities that have septic versus public wastewater? Because to me, that's sort of like So really, am I the only one on this Zoom that thinks that that's sort of obvious?
I agree with you 100% that that is a very obvious restriction and that there should be some provisions made. But it does not seem, and Colleen and Karina, if you've seen anything that's different, but I have not seen anything that is taking that into consideration.
Just as a point, this is tongue in cheek, but I was sitting here thinking if they insist on this, maybe we can insist that the state extends, they give us all public septic.
Well, or that's not a bad point, Alex. But we were talking earlier about legal opinions. We might want to run this by Jay Tallerman, because it's like, sometimes when the state hasn't even thought of something, maybe that it's a situation where we would seek, legal exemption on the basis of just, it's highly possible that these people haven't even considered that as a question.
That's a really good point, Sarah. Why don't we try to pull something together in writing and get it over to Jay and just get his opinion for our next meeting if we can.
The state just granted the town of Wayland millions of dollars. I can't tell you exactly how much. I remember reading it through one of the state sites to tie their septic into where they didn't have septic, to tie it into Sudbury's. So there's money out there to be tied into.
You mean sewer, John? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean sewer. Thank you.
Sudbury doesn't have it.
One of the towns, I apologize. I could be wrong on the town that they tied it into, but they did in Wayland. They tied into somebody's. You can look it up right on Route 20.
Well, it could be Framingham, right?
Not sure, but anyway, it was a ton of money. And if we could even get to tie in Route 9 just to either Westboro or Framingham, which I know Sam's talked about in the past, but there's got to be money out there. There's got to be a way to do it, because it's killing us.
So I don't know if the chair, Dorian, can give me a little leeway here, but
go for it.
I was briefly on a call with Jack Bartolini, Bill DiPietri, right, Sarah? Well, you were there. So
yes, that was the stakeholder call that
stakeholder call, yeah.
So, yep.
Other than sort of like my takeaways were 1 and 1A. One, the town has been sort of hot and cold to ambivalent as in general on affordable housing, which was a fair point. But number two, the Route 9, what Wood just said about the Route 9, sewer. That's a great point that Dave Ferris made. It's like without Route 9 sewer, we're kind of spinning our wheels. I mean, sorry, I can't state the obvious, but I think my brain was like, there's some connection between these things, but maybe somebody else can jump in.
With the sewer debacle that's going on right now, there's nobody building new sewer systems, new sewer treatment plants. I happen to know that we are at capacity in my hometown in Chelmsford, and it's a big deal. We're going back to septic. Even the biggest buildings are building their own septic systems for 400 units, and there's nobody building it. So some of this ARPA money can go to infrastructure like that, but who's going to permit and allow the next big plant that's going to help everybody? Everything goes out to Duck Island. We have constant overflows in the Merrimack River. I mean, it's not something you want to engage in unless you have a really high-tech, state-of-the-art sewer system.
I don't understand why we have to be talking about these systems. I'm somewhat familiar with them because some housing developments I'm familiar with had them, but where we're so close to the MWRA, I just don't understand why we can't tie into it.
There's no capacity. I mean, I may be wrong.
MWRA?
Yeah.
Huge.
But yet, I mean, Colleen, that's a fair point. But isn't that directly contradictory to this whole pro-development theme? Yes. I mean, if there's no capacity, then what are we doing any of this for? If nobody can live here.
Which is why I keep wondering why the government, the governor, I should say, is pushing these multifamily housing areas. How we handle it, I mean, every town's different. You have some capacity or you don't have any capacity. It's one of those questions that isn't answered yet. I
It's
don't
a question
think
that they
have.
need to think about and answer because it's affecting a lot of communities.
Mm.
Wayland was granted $2.2 million to tie into a wastewater treatment plant.
Where
on
was
Route
it?
On Route 20. I have it.
It's at the new development, where the stores are there.
Yeah, so
includes
it's a
that and the
$2.2 million
houses.
Mass Works infrastructure grant to receiving the master allows us to leverage the Alta at River's Edge project to bring much needed rental and affordable housing in perpetuity, like creating future vitality through increased access to wastewater services for the whole Route 20 corridor and business district. So that's right on Route 20 over by the Sudbury line where the old town dump used to be.
Right, but where do they tie in? Does it say?
Yeah, it's gotta
I
go
think
somewhere.
something I read before, it's about 3 miles away. So I think it's in the town probably built their own wastewater.
That's my understanding. They built their own, and it includes some of the houses on 27 or near Route 20. And then the new stores and the condos on Route 20.
Do you know where the treatment plant is, Alex? I'd love to take a ride by and see it. I've been to Weston's. I've seen the 20 that we have in town.
I have a vague sense it's somewhere near the Public Works building, but I'm not sure. I can find out though.
The Public Works building's in Cochituate. It's over by that's on the complete other side of town. I grew up there. That's the only reason.
I mean,
Call Wayland and ask them. Ask them.
Yeah,
where
I will, because I'd love to
water.
take a ride by it and see how big it is and if it's something that maybe, I mean, if the state gave a $2.2 million grant to connect to one, I wonder if they'd give us a grant to put one in somewhere on Route 9 or somewhere that, they're not. I want to see if the one in Wayland is similar to like the one that Tony Kwan has over for Southborough Medical, for it's like the ones that we have on other developments here that are underground. You look like regular houses instead of being like, a wastewater treatment plant like they have in Millbury, where, you just see all the water being sifted. And I would not want to see one of those anywhere. My personal opinion, if anybody else does, I apologize. I just would rather not see something like that.
I agree.
Photos I saw of Wayland didn't include anything like that.
So, but anyway, so there's a ton of grant money out there right now that's getting more for infrastructure for these things. So I think we need to pursue it. We're losing business on Route 9 because we can't put any real restaurants in because we can't put wastewater in. We're losing life sciences, biotech, because we don't have wastewater in there for the labs and they need that. We can't put even a simple like microbrewery in because we don't have it. So we can't put housing in. So pretty much our biggest piece of land that we could use for anything, we can't use for anything because we don't have the infrastructure, unfortunately. So.
Well, that's why we can't do this, because we don't have the infrastructure. I mean,
but with all this ARPA funding,
We're not
this
bringing
Recovery
it.
Act, there is so much money for infrastructure right now to be used. And I'm not talking on a state level, I'm talking federal. So with this Recovery Act, hopefully this is a good time that we actually start looking into these things, plan these things, figure out what we need, zone for what we want, figure out what we need to get we want, and then try to go from there. I know it's the chicken before, what came first, the chicken or the egg, but there's so many of the same pieces for that area for so many different things that this is a good time for the town to just take a look at what we can get and do to help us for so many things. With the more we bring on the Route 9, the better our commercial tax rate is, the better that helps affordable housing for people that are struggling to stay here, because then all of a sudden their taxes aren't going up 8% or an extra this or that. So
Yeah, we need to bring the businesses to Route 9. I'm not really crazy about putting housing on Route 9 because there'll be children there. I don't think that's a safe environment to have a child running around on Route 9, but we definitely need to do something for the businesses to bring new businesses in over there.
if
But
you put an
that's not
apartment
our
building like
purview.
Madison Place, it's really not all that many kids. I think there's only like 17 kids that are in the school systems out of that whole Madison Place.
Yeah, it all depends on the bedrooms. That we have studies
Yeah.
that show that major complexes with just a few 3 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms do not affect the school system significantly.
And then they,
I'm not
they
worried
usually
about
have-
the school system, I'm worried about safety for kids.
have you been up in Madison Place?
No, and that's beautiful, but it's set off to the back.
But that's what,
So-
that's what we, when I say zoning on Route 9, it means off of that too. That's, you know
Okay.
what I mean? That type of thing. It's not directly, I'm not gonna put the kids, hey, go ride your tricycle in the middle of the breakdown lane. It's
Yeah,
nice
like
and
the
smooth.
CAS building, that was too close to Route 9 for me to build housing in for kids. But we could have done senior housing there, so.
That's already
anyway,
sold though,
I
so
mean,
now
we
we don't
have
have
a
to worry
lot
about
of,
it.
we have a lot of work ahead of us, guys. Sorry to tell you this, but we do.
Well, and,
Okay,
and also think of it as a regional kind of issue, because it really is. You know, you're not going to get millions of dollars for a sewer system that's just going to work in Southborough. You know, it's a collaboration.
yep. It's gonna be a headache. I don't know if the town's gonna, well, the town's not gonna vote taxes to pay for it either, so we gotta figure something out. Our taxes are high enough. I
Well,
can-
and you bring in the, you bring in the sewer system and development's going to go crazy.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's a good idea either.
Exactly. It's all the character of the
Well,
town.
if it's on Route 9, I mean, that's what it's for.
Right,
It's literally our industrial district. So we're
we need
we're
it.
leaving tax revenue on the table by not
Yeah,
having
we
it.
need- we
And
need
that
some-
wouldn't even be just Route 9, because then you get Crystal Pond, and that's the biggest industrial area we have right off of Route 9, and it's empty. We have a road going through there that Westboro is really pushing to develop on their side, and we've got nothing. One of the things that was going to go in there, Southborough would have got a parking lot part of it. The rest of it all the
Great.
development would have been on the Westboro side,
What's EDC doing? Tell them to get working on that.
more than most people.
I know. I'm just busting you, John. All right, I guess that's gonna end the discussion for today. Does anybody have anything else to add to anything we've talked about today at all? Okay, our next meeting is scheduled as of right now for February 1st at 8:30. Does that still work for everyone? Jesse? You good with February?
Sorry, I lost you for a sec there. What was the date, please?
February 1st?
Yeah, that's already in my calendar, actually.
Okay, so we are good to go for February 1st at 8:30. And we will get that meeting that Karina was referring to. We'll get the website get sent out to everyone, right, Sarah?
Yep.
Okay, and then we'll do an aerial shot of the area. We'll try to get that out to everyone for the next meeting. And then obviously, we'll make some changes to the warrant article preparation, send that to you guys for February 1st. It's only a week and a half away, 2 weeks away. So we'll do that. And then we'll get that over to the selectmen for them to take a look at and discuss. After we just review it one more time, hopefully we have our 2 Toms with us. And I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Oh, John?
One quick second. I'm sorry. So there's a piece of property on Parkerville for sale, on the south side of Parkerville Road, almost not too far from Route 9. It was between 2 houses. They cleared the lot a few years ago, and then I think it was undevelopable. I don't know why they didn't build anything. Somebody's going to put a house there. They cleared the lot, and then they didn't have permits or this, that, or the other thing. But I saw yesterday there's a for sale sign on a piece of land. There's no house there, it's just a piece of property. Is that something that maybe we should look into, see how much it is, and then maybe do like they did on Gilmore Road and put a small cape in and see how much that would cost us? I don't know I just noticed it went for sale yesterday. That's why it just popped into my head, because they had a bunch of people standing there looking at it. So
John, can you take a look at that property? Maybe take a
absolutely.
picture and get the information and send that out or get that over to me?
Yeah, because it's on a hill, and it's actually somebody like dug it out. They cleared the lot maybe 10 years ago. And so, we need to be cleared again. But I don't know if it's something that you can build on. If it was, I don't know anything about it, property. I know that there was an issue before the guy cleared it prematurely and then they couldn't put anything there. It's not a very big lot, but
Right,
it would
that's
fit
fine.
it would fit a small ranch, a small cape.
Can you get a
Looks like
picture of the
Yeah.
lot to me and
Absolutely.
if you can call them, get a price or the information, get it to me. I'll do some research with Sarah on that and then I'll get all that information to everyone for the next meeting and we can talk about if we want to do something.
Sue's just, I have my secretary beside me. So what was that? Can you show me that again? 244. Do you know what number Parkerville that is? She's
It's
just looking.
163 Parkerville, and
it's
it's on 244, 244,000. It's I have it on MLS now. It's on 163 Parkerville Road.
160.
And how big is the lot?
A little over half an acre, 0.57 acres. Residential zoning. It's been on the market 9 days.
All right, John, can you just drive by if you get a chance and just take a picture of it and send that to me and I'll write this up and send that out to everyone so we have take a look at it.
Absolutely. I go by there on my way to the office anyway. As soon as I
Right.
leave here, I'll take pictures of everything.
That's something we might be able to, I'm not going to say definitely, but we might be able to consider purchasing that to do affordable housing on.
It would be a great little lot.
Habitat for Humanity or something like that. So.
Yeah.
Or
Um,
even
great.
Assabet on the other side of the Mass
Assabet's
Pike.
tied up for
Bridge.
3 years with
Are
doing
they?
stuff. Yeah, they're tied up for like 3 years now. So
Okay,
That
because
would've
they
been
did the
my
one on
first
the other side of the
consideration.
bridge.
yeah, but Habitat. So I think what they would
Habitat,
you
they
would-
charge you a crap load of money when you do it. Is
no,
what
I think
I've
you have to
learned.
donate the land. I think we would
Yeah.
donate the land, and then they would build. They would do all the building. We wouldn't have anything to do with it.
Oh, I thought once we donate the land, then we have to pay for supplies and then they build it.
No,
I
No,
thought
I
that's what
don't
they
think
said.
no, we
so,
donate the
no.
land.
Okay,
We donate the land to them, and they build something on it, and then it would be. It's part of Southborough, so it would go through the DHCD. So.
now what about like if it's Habitat for Humanity, when the place gets sold and somebody buys it, does the money come to us or does it go to Habitat?
No, it goes under us, I believe, because it's the DHCD for the town of Southborough. It goes under our jurisdiction.
Right.
So, yeah, no, it stays with us. So if it gets sold, it would have to stay as affordable.
Wonderful. I'll get
So
that
why don't,
information
if you
today.
wouldn't mind getting a picture, that's great news that maybe there's something we can do with that. And then we'll have that for the next meeting, which is only in, what, a week and a half, 2 weeks away. So
Right.
that would be fabulous. Thank you, John. Good job. Okay, motion to adjourn meeting.
I made a motion, so moved.
Okay, at
Second.
9:40 a.m. This is a roll call vote. Alex,
Aye.
Jesse,
Yes.
Dorian, John,
Yes, aye.
and Dorian votes in the affirmative. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and we'll see you on